a thunderous bang at the front door. For a second, I thought something had exploded until I saw her, Karen, the self-proclaimed HOA president, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, storming into my house like she owned it. Her perfume hit before her words did, sharp, synthetic, and overbearing. "You can't park that truck in your own driveway," she shouted. "And your mailbox? That's not HOA-approved beige." I didn't move, didn't say a word. Years of training taught me that silence rattles people more than shouting ever could. She mistook it for weakness. Karen marched closer, her heels stabbing into my hardwood floor like she was marking territory. Her voice kept climbing, nonsense about rules, citations, my community. Then her eyes landed on my phone sitting on the counter, recording the entire thing. Without hesitation, she reached for it. I gave her one warning. Calm, quiet, dead serious. "Don't touch that." She did anyway. And the moment her hand brushed my phone, I knew exactly how this was going to end. 3 weeks earlier, I thought I'd finally found peace. When I first moved into Willow Creek Estates, I thought I'd finally found peace. The streets curved in soft, lazy bends. Lawns were so green they looked photoshopped. Every morning, retirees power walked with matching water bottles, and kids rode bikes without parents worrying. It was the kind of neighborhood that looked like a screensaver, safe, slow, and clean. After 20 years in law enforcement, I needed that. Needed quiet, needed distance from everything that still woke me up at night. My wife had passed 3 years before, and I told myself that this little house with its trimmed hedges and front porch swing was my restart button. For a few weeks, it actually felt that way. Until Brenda showed up. Her name was Brenda Harrison. But around here, everyone called her the Queen. Not to her face. Of course, God forbid anyone risk that. But everyone knew she ran this neighborhood like her own private kingdom. She didn't knock the first time she introduced herself. She just appeared at the end of my driveway one afternoon. Perfect hair, clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon, and that frozen smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she chirped. "I'm Brenda, president of the HOA. We like to keep things orderly around here." Her tone had that sweetness people use when they're already judging you. I smiled, shook her hand, told her I looked forward to being part of the community. She looked past me, though, inspecting my siding, my mailbox, the faint chip on the edge of my driveway like she was running a preemptive audit. "You'll get the handbook soon," she said, tapping her clipboard. "Just a few things to make sure you're up to code." Nothing major. I should have known then that nothing major meant everything would be major. The first notice came 2 days later. Mailboxes must be HOA standard beige. Mine was matte black. No one else seemed to care, but apparently Brenda did. Then came the next one. Flag dimensions exceed community guidelines. I had a small American flag hanging by the porch. I measured it myself. It was 2 inches smaller than the limit she cited. The third violation? Trash bins visible from street. I remember laughing out loud at that one. They were visible because trash day was tomorrow. At first, I thought it was just her doing her job, a little obsessive maybe, but harmless. So I tried being polite. I repainted the mailbox. I double-checked my trash placement. I even printed out the HOA rules just to make sure I wasn't missing something. That was my mistake. Because politeness, to Brenda, was permission. One afternoon, my neighbor Mike, good guy, ex-firefighter, stopped by while I was fixing my fence. He lowered his voice and said, "You might want to watch your back with Brenda. She's got a way of turning small things into full-blown wars." He told me about a couple down the street who had painted their fence the wrong shade of white. Brenda fined them 3 times. When they refused to pay, she got them removed from the HOA board, then spread rumors they were problematic neighbors. "She's ruined people over fence colors," Mike said, shaking his head. At first, I didn't believe him. But it didn't take long to see the pattern. Brenda thrived on control. The kind of control that starts with rules and ends with fear. You could see it in how neighbors spoke around her. Smiles too tight, nods too quick. Everyone stayed on her good side. Because crossing her meant sleepless nights and endless letters, it became clear she'd picked me as her new project. Anonymous letters started appearing in my mailbox. No signature, but I could recognize her phrasing instantly. "Some of us are concerned about your property's appearance." We've noticed unusual activity at your address. Please respect community standards. Unusual activity? I was planting tomatoes. Then came the gossip. Posts on the neighborhood Facebook page. Some homeowners think the new guy is bringing down property values. Neighbors started waving from a little farther away. It didn't hurt me. But it annoyed me. Because I'd seen this before, not in neighborhoods, but in interrogation rooms. People who feed off control always follow the same script: test, provoke, isolate. So I played along. I stayed quiet. Fixed what she complained about. Let her think she was winning. But the longer I stayed quiet, the more she pushed. I caught her on camera one night, 10:47 p.m., standing at the edge of my property, flashlight in hand, taking pictures of my yard. My security light came on and she froze, like a kid caught stealing cookies. Then she scurried off. The next morning, I got another letter. Your porch light violates HOA brightness standards. That one made me laugh out loud. Still, I didn't respond. Because the thing about people like Brenda is, they want your reaction. They want you to crack, to get angry, to fight. I refused to give her that, but I'll admit, it was starting to get to me. The constant watching, the feeling that I couldn't even drink coffee on my porch without being judged. It wasn't just annoyance anymore. It was unease, and late one night I realized why I'd moved here in the first place. I wasn't just looking for quiet. I was running from noise, the kind that lives inside your head after years of seeing things you can't unsee. I came here to heal. But peace doesn't last when control is someone else's. Diction. The final straw came one Saturday afternoon. I was inside, fixing a loose cabinet hinge, when I heard my gate creak open. Through the window, I saw her, clipboard in hand, phone out, stepping right into my backyard. No permission, no reason. Just walking around like she owned the place. That was the moment something in me shifted. I didn't yell. Didn't grab my phone. I just stood there staring through the glass, watching her film my property like it was evidence for a case only she understood. She crossed a line that day, and as I walked out to the porch, calm as ever, I remember thinking, I tried peace. She chose war, the day she trespassed on my property. The war officially began. I'd seen plenty of people lose control before, angry suspects, scared parents, even desperate cops, but none of them compared to Brenda when she realized she was losing power. After that day she trespassed onto my property, I decided one thing: I wasn't going to play defense anymore. The next morning, I stopped by the hardware store, bought 3 new security cameras, and spent the afternoon wiring them into discrete corners of my porch and backyard. One under the eaves, one facing the street, one tucked inside a fake birdhouse. They didn't just record, they synced to my phone. If Brenda wanted a war, I was done fighting blind. At first, the cameras caught nothing unusual. A few passing cars, the mailman, a neighbor's cat. But then, around 9:30 p.m. one night, motion alerts started pinging. I checked the feed. There she was. Brenda, flashlight in hand again, snapping pictures of my shrubs. She crouched down, peered into my garden like she was investigating a crime scene. Then she pointed at my porch light, took a photo, and scribbled something onto her clipboard. By morning, like clockwork, another violation notice appeared on my door. Improper foliage trimming, potential pest hazard. I hadn't trimmed the hedges because they were fine. Because it was winter. But what really got under my skin wasn't the letter. It was the timestamp.
She had to have printed and delivered it sometime after midnight. She wasn't even trying to hide her obsession anymore. I decided to get smarter about it. For the next week, I acted normal.
Waved at her when she drove by. Nodded when she pretended to smile. Let her think I was still the polite, passive neighbor. Meanwhile, I was building a case, time-stamped footage, screenshots of her anonymous HOA emails, even a few Facebook posts from burner accounts she clearly ran. And because I'd spent years in law enforcement, I knew what evidence looked like and how to make it stick. But the more I uncovered, the more something else gnawed at me. Why? Why did she need this kind of control? What kind of person wakes up and decides their mission in life is to ruin other people's peace? One afternoon, I sat in my truck watching her through the dashcam feed. She was standing in her driveway, barking orders at some landscaper, pointing, snapping her fingers, micromanaging every shovel of dirt. And for the first time, she didn't look powerful. She looked lonely, like someone who'd spent so long controlling everything that she didn't know how to be human anymore. For a split second, I almost pitied her, because 2 nights later, she crossed another line. I woke up at 1:12 a.m. to a faint clatter outside. Not loud, just enough to pull me out of sleep. I checked the cameras, and there she was again, and this time at my mailbox. She opened it. Took something out, then stuffed a letter in. I was out the door before she reached the sidewalk. "Brenda," I called out, keeping my tone steady. She froze, her eyes darting toward me. Then she forced that fake smile. "Oh, I was just checking on some reports about non-standard mail delivery." "In my mailbox?" She straightened her clipboard. "As HOA president, I have the right to—" "You have no right to touch federal property," I said, stepping closer. "That's a felony, Brenda." She blinked, then tried to laugh it off. "Oh, please. Don't be dramatic. It's just a letter." And that's when I noticed it. The envelope in her hand wasn't addressed to me. It was blank. Fake. She'd been creating false violation notices to make it look like the HOA was against me, trying to build a paper trail. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just let her walk away, because now I had what I needed. The next morning, I met with my old friend David Park, a local attorney who'd helped me on more than one case back in the day. I showed him everything. He flipped through screenshots, photos, videos, his expression shifting from disbelief to fury. "She's not just violating HOA policy," he said. "She's committing mail tampering, harassment, and trespassing. This is criminal, not civil." "Good," I said. "Because I want this to end cleanly, legally." David nodded. "Let's document everything. Then we'll let her hang herself." Over the next few days, I played along. I left my mailbox unlocked, my porch light on, and my camera notifications silent. Every time she thought she was getting away with something, she was just digging deeper. And then came the night she went too far. It was just after 10 p.m. when I heard the unmistakable creak of my front gate. I checked the feed and froze. She wasn't just in my yard. She was inside my house. The footage showed her pushing through the back door, clipboard in one hand, phone flashlight in the other. I walked out from the hallway, calm as stone. "Brenda," I said, "what are you doing in my house?" She spun around, eyes wide but defiant. "I have authority to inspect properties for code violations." I couldn't help but smile. "You have what?" "I'm the HOA president," she said, puffing up her chest. "You signed the agreement when you moved here. You gave me full access." "Full access," I repeated, taking a slow step closer. "To break into someone's home at night?" Her hand trembled, but she held the clipboard like a badge. "You people think you're above the rules." That's when I reached into my pocket. Not for a weapon, not for my phone, but for my wallet. I flipped it open. The gold badge gleamed under the light. "I am the rules," I said quietly, "and you just broke several." The color drained from her face, then came the sound, faint but unmistakable. Sirens, getting closer. I'd called them 10 minutes earlier, when the motion sensors tripped inside my home. She turned toward the window, panic flashing in her eyes. "You can't do this." "I'm the HOA president." "Not anymore," I said. "And by the time they're done with you, you won't even be a homeowner." When the red and blue lights painted the street outside, neighbors started peeking from their windows. Curtains shifted. Phones lifted. Brenda stood frozen on my porch as the officers approached. Her hands shook when they cuffed her. She kept repeating, "I was just doing my job." But no one believed that anymore. A few days later, the story spread. The videos went viral on the local news. Turns out she'd been running fake HOA citations for years, pocketing fines and bullying anyone who stood up to her. The board voted to dissolve the HOA completely. People started smiling again. Real smiles this time. And me? I finally had quiet. Not the fragile kind that gets broken by footsteps at night. The kind that comes when you know justice landed exactly where it should. I sat on my porch one evening, watching the sunset over the freshly quiet street, and thought about everything that had happened. Justice isn't revenge. It's peace, and sometimes peace needs protecting. Some people mistake power for purpose, until both are taken away. I leaned back, Buck, my old service dog, resting his head beside me, and smiled faintly. "I didn't move here to start a war," I said under my breath. but sometimes peace has to be defended.